Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin philanthropy, a very uncommon and unfamiliar term. Many folks don't want to associate the two because many people think that philanthropy is something that's very corrupt and non-transparent, which it can be. But today we're going to talk about how we kind of changed that and disrupted a very traditional, archaic industry around the world. Before we begin with our presentation, we have a very short video that we want to show you all as our proof of work for you all to kind of understand the line of work that we're in the relationships that we're building with people on the ground and around the world. And I want to emphasize in context here, every building, every relationship that you see in this video, every child's smile, all began with the intention to spread awareness of both financial literacy and Bitcoin education to the rest of the world. Anytime that I talk about Bitcoin philanthropy, I always like to talk about my Bitcoin journey. My Bitcoin journey actually began before I was even born. In 1980, my parents came to the United States as refugees of Afghanistan. And my father, growing up in South Central Los Angeles in the Crenshaw district of LA, we grew up in a very difficult environment. My father, unfortunately, fell to predatory practices of the banking system. My dad was introduced to the credit card. And as an individual wanting to just support his family, my dad was working 3 jobs, one during the day, one at night, and one on the weekends. And when he was introduced to the credit card, he thought to himself, I can buy this refrigerator and TV for my family, and I don't have to pay for it at this very moment in time. He thought that it was a miracle. But what he didn't know, he didn't read the fine print. And that fine print was that he has to owe interest on every single purchase that he has and makes. In a span of 40 years, my father, living in the United States, filed for bankruptcy not once, but twice, because he was financially illiterate. That's why I'm so passionate about spreading financial literacy and why Bitcoin is so important to me in my life. 13 years ago, I went to Africa for the very first time. I traveled there to Rwanda, learning about its people, learning about its culture, and understanding what happened in 1994 during the genocide. That first inclination, that first experience that I had there, I knew, and I said to myself internally, that my career was going to change. I want to be boots on the ground as much as I possibly can. So then 2014, I started my first nonprofit. In the charity world, that connotation and that word has a very negative connotation to it. I wanted to create my own. Why? Because for working for a nonprofit, I saw what things were working and what things weren't. That it was a business over people. That it was profit over purpose. And so I wanted to create my own, so that I can control what's happening, so I can verify and I can trust what's happening on the ground. In 2017, I was raising funds for a very large, significant project. And we see this donation coming in from an Eastern European country, and the financial platform that I was using at the time flagged it as potential fraud because of the amount and where it came from. So what led to me was to reach out to this individual, thank them for their anticipated contribution, but also request from them humbly, is there another form of payment that you can make? And their response is right here. The line that is most emphasized there, obviously, is the one, better yet, do you accept Bitcoin? I had absolutely no idea what Bitcoin was at this time. So as anyone else would do, I went onto Google and I typed in, literally, what is Bitcoin? All these things came up, as you can imagine. Many negative, some positive. And I thought to myself, do I really want to get involved in this funny internet money? I'm traveling to all these conflict areas around the world. I'm dealing with very extremely fragile and vulnerable communities. Do I want to associate myself with something that I don't understand? What led was to me to have this peer-to-peer conversation with this individual via email. And he orange-pilled me that way. The person on the other side of that email, Yusuf, who's also the co-founder of the Build to a Bitcoin Foundation. In order for us to be able to find a solution, we have to understand what the problem is. That's what I was being faced with on a daily basis. Running an international NGO on a fiat base, there's a lack of transparency, right? Everyone thinks, well, where is the money actually going? My main cause and my main mission was to show people firsthand, vicariously through us, I should say, where these funds were actually going. So I was traveling to these places and connecting with people. I was trying to learn from them, listen to them, assimilate myself culturally in their environments as best as I possibly can. Another issue that you have with fiat is high fees. Let's say a school costs $100,000 US. It would require me multiple transactions to send that money overseas, maybe 4, 5, maybe even 10 times. Because every single time you send a wire transaction over $9,999 internationally, especially in the conflict areas that I worked in, there's a level of doxing that has to happen there. There's a level of engagement that folks that you don't want to talk to are talking to you about. This creates a roadblock. And every single roadblock deals with the problem number 3, which is the lack of productivity. If I cannot send funds to build that school in a timely manner, guess what happens? That school is not built. Those individuals that were provided salaries to build that school in that 3-month time frame, they're not able to support their families. But most importantly, if the school doesn't get built, where do the children go to school? If that water well is not built, where are the communities able to attract and retrieve clean water? And what about those farming systems that we build for them not to have sustainable vegetation? The way that I look at charity and the way that I look at philanthropy is the same way that I look at fiat and crypto versus Bitcoin. When we're talking about fiat-based, it's very short-term, Band-Aid effect, right? It's not sustainable, and folks are just there to take a couple photos. It's all for show. But when we're thinking long-term, that's where the Bitcoin focus comes in, is that allowing individuals in these communities to understand that there's an alternative, superior solution to their everyday issues. We want to create genuine change, and ultimately, the communities that we work in, we want them to be independent. We are not here to be ultimate sustainable funders for them. That's not the way that we want them to see us. We want them to see us as partners, right? There has to be a mutual benefit for all here. Peer-to-peer philanthropy is difficult. Why? Because it utilizes the most valuable asset that we have in this world. And it's not a Satoshi and it's not a Bitcoin. It is time, y'all. Time. It requires time and effort for us to be able to connect with communities all around the world. And that's something that's very difficult and not many people want to do. Hence why the fiat aspect of all this is very easy. You go there, you build a project, you take a couple pictures, and then you leave forever. There is absolutely, it's all a transaction. There is no intrinsic relationship building that happens. There's no interpersonal communication skills that's necessary. That's what makes us different. The partnerships and the alliances with these communities is what allows us to be able to succeed. Our metric of success is not the amount of Bitcoin that we accumulate. It is not the amount of projects that we build or even the number of people that we affect. It's the quality of the work that we're trying to accomplish here. And thankfully, since 2017, we've been able to work with dozens of different communities around the world, and we're able to visit them on an annual or biannual basis and be welcomed with open arms. And that, to me, is something extremely gratifying and satisfying. One aspect to all of this is to learn and listen from the individuals on the ground. I never travel to an area thinking that I know their solutions or their problems, They're the ones that tell us what they need, and we are working together as a mutual partnership. That's the key here. Mutual education, we keep talking about learning from them, but they're also there to be able to learn from us. And so there's a mutual respect between the both of us. And last but certainly not least, building for independence. This, for me, is extremely important. The very first school that we built in 2017, the same year that Ray and I met each other, we built our first school in Rwanda. And that school still stands to this day with close to 500 students attending every single day. This is a common theme, and it's an extremely important theme that it's within our ecosystem. Don't trust, verify. Our concept of success is always being boots on the ground. Myself and Ray are shown here breaking ground on our second school in Nigeria. It's extremely important for us to be able to connect at any moment in time with the individuals that are living on the ground. Why donate Bitcoin? 3 main reasons. There's obvious advantages to transparency, not just on the blockchain. I'm talking about the ethos behind Bitcoin, of allowing individuals to be part of that proof of work. Access, to be able to send funds any time of day, any time of year, regardless if it's New Year's or Christmas Day, Bitcoin never closes. And for us to be able to send that Bitcoin at any moment in time allows us to be as efficient and as productive as we possibly can, which is the third pro that we have. One of the main facets, whether it's water well systems in Ghana, whether it's school systems in South Africa, whether it's relief efforts in India, everything that we do has to have a financial literacy and Bitcoin education framework. Why? Because at the end of the day, we want individuals to understand what is money and what is money supposed to do for me. Money is supposed to work for me, not the other way around. And unfortunately, in a lot of these financially discriminated areas of the world, that's not the case, including where my family's from in Afghanistan. What we do, simply put, is connections, relationship building. Individuals that you see here are individuals of our communities. We try to gather as much information as we possibly can in the sense of understanding where their daily lives are before and what their daily lives are after the projects themselves. I want to give one example for an individual. Her name is Immaculée. We call her Queen Immaculée. She's in the Bugesera district of Rwanda, Africa, the location of our very first school. She's a mother of one of our students. And when we first went to Rwanda, she gifted me a gift for building the school amongst our partners. She provided me a hen. And giving a gift to a chicken had never happened to me before in my life, as you all can imagine, but there's a story behind it. A chicken can provide a family with food for weeks, if you think about it, whether it's through eggs or the chicken meat itself. She was able to sacrifice as a gesture of appreciation and acknowledgement for what we're doing to me by taking food away from her family. This was something that struck a chord with me, and this happened in 2017. I'll never forget that day. It was a rainy day. We were all in one of the classrooms because rain was pouring down on us during a community engagement event, and it was that school that allowed all of us to be together inside of that classroom. So one special thing about Immaculée is that you all can see from this photo from 2017 that there are 5 young children that are with me. Those 5 children all have either gone to our school and graduated or currently still go to our school to this day. This is our proof of work. How to support. It's not just about Built with Bitcoin. There's a huge ecosystem with so many different initiatives and projects that are happening in the world. There are dozens and dozens and dozens, whether you are just wanting to provide sats and putting sats in the hands of people, whether you're trying to build a water well system or even a school. The number one thing we all can do is to amplify and highlight the work that's happening, whether it's through social media, through our internal networks. It's not about making a donation. It is about word of mouth. It is about referral. Why? Because you can make a connection for someone that can contribute in a different type of way. Last but certainly not least, 6 years ago, I changed the trajectory of my career. I was supposed to be a doctor, and nonprofit work was supposed to just be a side gig, so to speak. But now it's become my passion, something that I live for every single day. And through the experiences of Bitcoin and the ecosystem itself, I've been able to meet so many different people from all around the world. And I want to say that this is just a small snippet of the projects and initiatives that are happening all around the world. And I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for missing a lot of projects in this. So forgive me for all those that I haven't. But this is just to show you as a reflection of where we were, where we are right now, and hopefully where we're going to move forward into the future together. Thank you all for your time.